Hello, IB History Scholars. It's Mr. Newcomb here. We are at the end of the case study on Kosovo, and so what that means, it's exam time. And this exam is going to focus on the role of ethnic cleansing during the Kosovo conflict. So over the next few slides, I want to focus on the parameters of what this exam will look like. So just some general points about the exam. In the assessment folder, you will notice that there will be two documents. One is going to be the review sheet, the other one is going to be exam sources. You do want to take a look at both of those documents. It's going to be helpful in your preparation for the Kosovo exam here. Open up the review sheet. It'll have some general ideas about the role of ethnic cleansing in the Kosovo conflict. Take a look at that. The exam sources, if you have the ability to print it out, would be a good idea to have that at your side when you start the exam. Remember, at one point in the exam, you're going to need to compare and contrast. So if you have the sources out there, you can have your highlighters, and that can help when answering that part of the exam. You'll also notice that this exam would be broken into 4 parts. Thought I'd break it up that way as opposed to having you sit down and do all of them at one time. And so each part is actually going to be timed, and I'll explain that in the next few slides. You can start the exam on Monday, April 27th, and I do know that it's a no school day on April 27th, so just relax. You don't have to start it. You can start it on Tuesday if you want. You have till Friday, May 1st to get all 4 parts of the exam done. So you have plenty of time to do that. So looking at the first part of this exam, it's going to deal with questions 1A and 1B. And so those questions are going to ask you to assess your ability to comprehend the sources. And so for each of the questions, we're looking for 2 to 3 statements. And you can list your statement, so that means bulletize it if you want, or you can write it into paragraph form if you feel more comfortable with that. So you can pick what format you want there. Still, you'll have 20 minutes though to complete this part of the exam, so just be aware once you start it, you have 20 minutes to complete it. Part 2 is going to deal with your ability to determine the value and the limits of a source. So question 2 is what we'll call the OPVL. And so you want to determine the value of the origin and the purpose, write 2 or 3 statements related to that, and you want to determine the limits of the origin and the purpose and write 2 or 3 statements related to that as well. You can list your statements, so again, bulletize it. So make sure that you have the statements related to the value kind of chunked together, and then also the statements about limits chunked together. If you write in a paragraph form, one paragraph's dealing with the value, the other paragraph is dealing with the limits. You'll have 20 minutes to complete this part of the exam, so be aware of the time. In part 3, this is going to assess your ability to compare and contrast. So this will be the part, if you printed out those documents, you could have those documents right there with your highlighters, and you can highlight first, then do your finished part of it, the writing part of it, I should say. So with question 3, you are comparing and contrasting. You want to find the similarities of the 2 sources and write 2 to 3 statements related to that question. And it's a running commentary, so source A is similar to source B. Kind of, that's what I mean by running commentary. And you want to find out the differences of the 2 sources and write 2 to 3 statements and make it a running commentary as well. In source B, they mention this, however, in source C, they don't, and get that running commentary going. You can list your statements as well. So again, chunk those similar statements together, and then chunk those different statements together. Or if you're going to write in a paragraph, one paragraph about similarities and the other paragraph about the differences. And you'll also have 20 minutes to complete this part of the exam. So again, be aware of the time. The last question is the the big question here. So question 4 is going to have you put it all together. And so you're going to want to have an introductory statement, kind of your claim on the question, and really avoid using I in it. We want to try to keep this as formal as possible. And what I mean by that is don't say, I agree or I believe. You want to make sure that you use all the sources. So you want all 4 sources to be in there, and you want to reference them. And if you remember some outside information, bring that in too. And you can either integrate that outside information by a particular source reference, or you can do it as a standalone as well. And you want to make sure you have a concluding statement. You can list as well, outline it if that makes you feel more comfortable, or you can again write it in a paragraph form. You got an intro paragraph, you got your paragraph that deals with the sources, you got a paragraph that deals with outside information, and you got a paragraph that's your concluding statement. This one's going to be take you a little bit longer time, and so you'll have 40 minutes to complete this part of the exam. So again, once you start it, just be sure that you are aware of what your time is. Okay, and finally here, while taking the exam, my hope is that you're being authentic, demonstrate integrity. I know you will. Always, if you have any questions or concerns, please let me know. Send me an email. I'll get back to you as soon as possible. With that, good luck.